Now let's get into the meat of the conversation. Where you guys are from, I know while you're located in the Miami, South Florida area, many of you are not originally from there. The area where you're from, where were the hottest playgrounds to play? And who was the person that gave you work on the playground? Who gave you that business? Let's start with London.
Well,
who gave you that business?
You know, this is not a question that I really have a good answer for.
You got that much work done to you?
Yeah, I got a lot of work. I didn't come from an area that was a basketball hotbed. I mean, there was guys that were pretty good, but most of the guys I went to high school with and guys that I played with when I was growing up, none of them went really past high school. They didn't play. My parents moved us out of Detroit when I was young, and so we were just in a bad spot. There just wasn't much of it. I mean, so I can't necessarily go back to point out anybody, at least way back when, that used to give me some work. Now, I have run into people that, over the course of my life and all the times I've spent on the court, I've run into some people that always cause me problems.
So who are some of those guys? It doesn't, I kind of talked about, growing up, your developmental stages, but who are the guys that gave you some work? Looks like Manny Fresh is over there.
Yeah, Manny Fresh is one of
them work.
Manny gives me work. He gives me work all the time as it is. Now he's 30 pounds lighter. I'm probably going to have to get my son there. I don't think I'm going to want to mess with him.
Let me say some words in London's defense. He's the oldest guy there by far.
Okay.
Manny and I are the same age. Where me and Manny are probably. Are we in the middle of the age spectrum?
Probably just past the middle, probably like just on the top end of the middle.
Okay.
Yeah.
I see by far the oldest guy. So the fact that he's holding his own out there with guys our age and stuff, it's a credit to his actually it's his genetics, because the guy has a six pack and he's like 70 years old or some shit.
So it's funny that you said that, because one of the people that's watching, I call him my big brother. He's been on the show several times. Francois Wright, aka Big Frenchie. He made a comment earlier that London does not look like he's close to 60. So there's something about those genetics, those genes.
I got lucky.
I didn't realize London was as old as he was until he told me. I just thought he was just kind of this baby face guy with a deep voice, like he was an R&B jazz singer or something. Out there trying to play basketball. The next thing I know, he's like, "Oh, we got a hamstring. Go get him." I'm like, all right, okay. So, Matt, you talked about the pickup games and the runs. You played at Union City. You're originally from the East Coast area. I'm sure you come across a lot of ball players, or even just had some really good basketball games. Name somebody who gave you some work. This is also a straight no chase. We allow therapy as well. So get this therapeutic session out of your system too.
Okay, so these are guys that played at a high level of college ball. These aren't like NBA legends or anything, but there were guys in my area. We would go into, different cities and different pickup games and different courts or whatnot. Guy named Scooney Penn.
Yep.
Scooney was a problem. One of the fastest guys on a basketball court you'll ever see at any level. Had a great career overseas, but he played for my rival high school. We were 1 year apart. Impossible staying in front of that guy. We'd play pickup ball. Shannon Crooks, a kid who ended up at St. John's and UMass. I remember one time I went up, I had a breakaway, went to lay it in. I thought I saw the ball go through the hoop. He had taken it off the square and thrown it 20 rows deep.
Oh, man.
One of those type of things. I grew up in a suburb, mostly white guys, and you go into the city and play with these city guys, and it's, we could talk about race with the race stuff going on in this country. When you're a white dude going into the black neighborhoods to play ball, it's a sign of respect when they want to pick you up. And sometimes you're the only white guy, or, if there's a choice and they're picking teams and they see a white guy and a black guy, they're taking the black guy. That's how it works. In basketball, that's how it works. And then they see you play, and then you can earn your way, meritocracy type system where you can earn your way and get yourself some playing time. But guys like that, we grew up idolizing Chris Herron. Chris Herron was a white guy.
Mm-hmm. Very familiar with
area that we looked at him as like, wow, we might be able to do this, because he's a 6'2" white guy. He's not extremely athletic or extremely tall or any of those things. He's something that we could see ourselves in. So I would read he had a book in high school about him called Fall River Dreams.
Okay.
I would read that on the way to my high school games. There were kids on my team. We would pass it around the bus and everyone would read that book. There was a guy in my town named Casey Arena, 6-foot point guard, ended up going to University of Maine, all-time leading scorer at University of Maine. Just an amazing basketball player. Just seeing these guys grow up and they look like you. He was an Italian guy like me, 6 feet tall like me, just regular sized dude, but he was flashy. Yeah, that was what I grew up with, that type of stuff.
So to your point, I'm actually friends with Chris Herron on social media. Last time I messaged him was about 1.5 years ago, and we were just talking about some things. I know he had a documentary that had come out. It was on ESPN, but he's a really good down-to-earth guy. You know, straightforward, no BS, but he's a good person.
Yeah, we spoke about having him on the podcast, but he's so busy.
I know he's on my list of people to reach out to as far as my connections. But I will say this: my big brother Francois Wright, we call him Big Frenchie. He will tell you to this day that Kenny Anderson is his all-time favorite point guard, and Chris Herron is right there. Chris Herron was real. And I mean, this is with all the things that he had going on outside of basketball. Imagine, you can only imagine how good he would have been, had he been able to focus completely on it and things like that. But shout out to the Big Frenchman and Chris Herron.
It showed that he had a different purpose. His path is to help people and to, he's setting up these treatment centers and helping people get clean. I mean, I think he's doing so much more. He put himself on a platform to get exposure and have a voice because of his basketball ability, but his ability to connect and to touch people and to improve people's life has made him more impact, more purpose.
Absolutely. Manny, how about you?
So, I moved around a lot as a kid. And obviously most of the basketball that I played at an older age was in the Reading area. We played a summer league in the West Reading Park, which was a big park, Antietam Park. I don't know if I can name anybody specific from those times. Obviously camp was where I faced, the best players. And like I said, playing with Richard Hamilton was probably one of the best experiences. But now with the kind of runs that we had, there's no one I could have played that I have played in the last 20 years that would be better. I mean, obviously with the guys we've mentioned, I was with a similar group in Boca of guys. We played with, Chris Carter and Randy Moss, and you got to play with extreme athletes. So like nobody growing up that would stand out name-wise, but probably what grew me the most as a player. My parents worked for a company called Vision Quest, which is a company for juvenile delinquent kids. So the kids are actually sentenced by the court. And they had a facility with a gym and everything. And so my school bus would drop me off there, and I would go to the gym. And starting at about 11, 12 years old, that's who I played with. So you're talking about kids in a juvenile detention center. Like Maddie said, I'm one of the only white kids in the gym, and I'm young, and they're 17, 18, and they're rough. There's no fouls, no blood, no foul. And it teaches you to be tough. It teaches you how to stay on the court. It taught me a lot, along with then developing into my days at 5-star and everything. But it was probably what gave me that first experience of what everyone would call street ball, or going in there and trying to play 21 on a court with like 26 dudes, and I'm up to their waist. You want to talk about just trying to get after it. There was a few times I think my dad had to step in and say, "Are you okay?" Because I'm good. That's just how you learn how to get after it. So, but as far as the toughest players to match up with, I can guard London sometimes, which is good. But when I get switched on a screen and I got to guard Ray, or when Tim Hardaway would play with us, or Ja Morant right before where he gets drafted, he came and played with us one morning. And what are you going to do? It's like you're not in awe because we're used to it, but you have to be like, wow, like what is that level and it's a whole nother thing, but it's fun. And I think, you know, like Matty said, he doesn't bother people to get on his podcast and all that, because that's not what we're about. You know, it's about forming relationships and those guys knowing they can walk in our gym and talk to us and feel good about it. And no one's asking for pictures and autographs. And when they do, the few people that have, you know, we usually talk to them and say, you know, that's not what we're about. So, but that's my little history as far as playing against some of the best.